Hi, I'm Dr. Prashant Ahluwalia. I'm going to present a topic on pre-anesthetic checkup under the guidance of Dr. Taskeen ma'am. So, it is a clinical assessment of a patient before administering anesthesia to a patient for any surgical or non-surgical procedure like MRI or CT. It is used for planning the appropriate anesthetic technique, conducting a preoperative evaluation based on the premise that it will modify patient care and improve outcome. So, what are the goals? To reduce the patient risk and morbidity associated with surgery and anesthesia, to keep the patient in its optimal condition before administering anesthesia, to optimize patients with any derangement prior to administering anesthesia, and to prepare the patient medically and psychologically. So, what are the components? First, review of medical record, history, physical examination, identification of risk factors, plan of anesthetic technique. So in review of medical record, see for any previous surgeries and the anesthetic technique used. It is useful in detecting a difficult airway, history of malignant hernia, individual's response to surgical stress, any complication during the procedure or after the procedure. In history, it is basically gathering relevant information, that's identification of person, complaints, history of presenting illness, past medical history, relevant family history, personal history, surgical history. So, physical examination, it consists of height, weight, BMI, vitals like pulse, blood pressure, respiratory rate. Also see for pallor, icterus, clubbing, cyanosis, lymphadenopathy, edema, jugular venous pulse pressure, etc. The systemic examination, in the central nervous system, we see for consciousness level, hemiplegia, quadriplegia, patient has stroke or convulsion history. Also, we see for in cardiac CVS, we see for heart sounds, cardiac murmurs. Respiratory system, we see for respiratory pattern, air entry, sounds. In abdominal examination, we see the abdomen is distended like ascites. And coming to the most important, local examination. In this, we check for the airway. So the mouth normal opening is 2 fingers or 3 finger breadth. One should be able to visualize the uvula, part of tonsillar pillar in patient with sitting, in mouth open and tongue protruding out. Thyromental distance is normally 6 centimeters. Sternomental distance normally 15 centimeters. So what are the abnormalities? Either it's restricted mouth opening, not able to visualize part of uvula or tonsils with mouth open and tongue protruding out, high arch palate, cleft tip cleft palate, tonsillar hypertrophy. The assessment of airway is done by Malampatti modified test at the visibility of pharyngeal structures, Patil's test where thyromental distance less than 6.5 centimeters, Wilson's test. So this is the Malampatti grading system. You see class 1, you can see the hard palate, soft palate, base of the uvula and posterior pharyngeal wall. Class 2, the tip of the uvula is missing. In class 3, you see the uvula is not seen. In class 4, only the hard palate is seen. Few abnormalities of mouth opening. This is Wilson's risk score. Consists of weight, head and neck movement, jaw movement, receding mandible, and buck teeth. This is scoring, or according to score, we decide. So also we see for nasal passage where we see the nostrils. We see the patient has deviated nasal septum, external growth, adenal hypertrophy in children. Neck movement should be freely possible without any pain or discomfort. Meant to higher distance, normally 3 finger breadth. Neck movement, flexion, extension, or look for swelling. Now, what is difficult intubation? Limitation of mouth opening less than 3 centimeters between the incisors, long upper incisors, inability to protrude the mandibular incisors anterior to maxillary incisors, restricted head and neck movement, short neck, increased neck circumference more than 17 inches in men and more than 16 inches in women, thyromental distance less than 7 centimeters with head in maximum extension, high Malampatti score. Also, large tongue, that's macroglossia, uvula not visible when tongue is protruded with patient sitting, shape of palate high arched or very narrow, mandibular space not compliant, micrognathia, morbid obesity. You see in the left side picture. tumor restricting mouth opening. On the right side, we see swelling in neck, making intubation difficult. So we also have this ASA physical status classification system. It has ASA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. ASA 1 is normal healthy patient without organic, biochemical, or psychiatric disease, any normal individual. ASA 2, mild systemic disease with no significant impact on daily activity, like mild diabetes, controlled hypertension, obesity. ASA 3, severe systemic disease that limits activity like angina, COPD, prior myocardial infarction. ASA 4, an incapacitating disease that is a constant threat to one's life, like congestive heart failure, unstable angina, renal failure, acute myocardial infarction, respiratory failure requiring mechanical ventilation. ASA 5, moribund patient not expecting to survive more than 24 hours, like a ruptured aneurysm. ASA 6, brain dead patient whose organs are to be harvested. So, systemic examination we see for cardiovascular system, major risk factors are ischemic heart disease, heart failure, hypertension, heart block and conduction defect, peripheral vascular disease. Patients with history of myocardial infarction are susceptible for perioperative reinfarction whose incidence is related to time interval between surgery and the infarct. Also, the presence of unstable angina has been associated with a higher risk of perioperative MI. Minor risk factors: mild angina, history of MI, pathological Q wave in ECG, congestive heart failure, diabetes mellitus. Also, advanced stage ECG abnormalities like LVH, left bundle branch block, ST segment abnormalities. In the respiratory system, we see history of tobacco use, dyspnea, exercise tolerance, obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, respiratory diseases like active URTI, LRTI, COPD, tuberculosis, pneumonia, etc., that either make the airway reactive to stimulus or affect ventilation. Also, anatomical abnormalities in airway, as we had discussed previously. Auscultation can detect decreased breath sounds, wheeze, crepitations, etc. CA lung, CA metastasis, etc. decrease the alveolar surface area, affecting ventilation. Now, investigations. General investigations. Complete blood count consists of hemoglobin, total count, differential count, platelets, PTINR, LFT, liver function tests. Consists of bilirubin, SGOT, SGPT, alkaline phosphatase, renal function tests consisting of urea, creatinine, electrolytes, chest X-ray, blood sugar level, ECG, and a 2D echo if necessary. Now, sometimes patients do have certain medications they are taken for any condition. Which ones to continue? So, antihypertensives except ACE inhibitors and angiotensin receptor blockers. You can continue cardiac drugs like digoxin, beta blockers, antipsychotic medications, antidepressants, anxiolytics, thyroid medications, birth control pills, anticonvulsants, steroids, statins, bronchodilators. Now, aspirin, if reversal of platelet inhibition is necessary, stop aspirin 3 days prior to surgery. If patients have coronary stents, do not discontinue aspirin for at least 1 year. Clopidogrel and ticlopidine, for cataract surgery, do not stop. If reversal of patient inhibition is necessary, stop clopidogrel 7 days prior to surgery. If patients have coronary stents, do not discontinue clopidogrel. Medications to discontinue: oral hypoglycemic agents, diuretics, sildenafil 24 hours prior to surgery, warfarin 4 days prior to surgery, NSAIDs at least 48 prior to surgery. So, NPO status, that is near per oral status. In adults for full meal, minimum 6 hours. In pediatric patients, for clear liquids, 2 hours. For breast milk, 4 hours. For formula feed or non-human milk, 6 hours. Also, we have to do some psychological preparation of the patient. So, pre-operative visit to patient, explaining procedure, type of anesthesia to be given, explain anticipated events to reduce post-operative apprehension of patient and relatives. To reduce anxiety of the patient, a dose of benzodiazepine can be given, like alprazolam or diazepam. Thank you.